Hi everyone, it's Niamh here and welcome to my art journaling channel. Today is another in the series of Why Do I Art Journal, and this is journaling tough subjects. So I'm starting off in my craft journal and just putting a little bit of gesso down in the corner. Now this is a really simple page because I wasn't up to doing very much, but I needed to art journal. The day I did this, I'd actually just come out of hospital. I'd been in hospital for 4 days because I had a severe internal bleed. I haven't been feeling well for the last week or so. I didn't realise what was going on. I was actually feeling better on the Wednesday and went to work, but managed to get a cancelled doctor's appointment. Got to the doctor and the doctor said, well, we can ring you an ambulance so you can get someone to take you to emergency because you're bleeding. So yeah, that was a bit of an adjustment, and because I had to go so quickly, I didn't have much time or effort to think about what was really going on. And you know, you're sitting in hospital thinking you're feeling okay, but they're still keeping you in hospital, even though you know they usually want to kick you out fairly fast. So I knew it was probably a little bit more serious than I was feeling when they kept me in there for 4 days. So it took a little bit of a toll on me, and the fact that I couldn't actually take any of my art journaling stuff as well, to be honest, I wasn't really feeling up to doing anything. Was doing my head in a little bit. So the first thing I wanted to do when I came home, apart from have a big sleep, was to do something in my art journal, just to not commemorate it, but just try and make sense of what happened and how it happened so quickly in my head. So I decided to grab out these figures from Dina Wakley and stamp them onto some vintage text. I liked sort of the one figure overlooking the other, sort of looking out for them, looking after them, kind of really appealed to the narrative I had in my head, I suppose, of what I was doing. I then decided that I wanted to put some stamps in the background because it was a bit plain, and you know me, I don't do plain. So I'm busy looking at my mark making stamps, but I wasn't really happy with what I'd come up with. And then I remembered that I had some fantastic Tim Holtz stamps that I just bought, which are these ones. I think they're called Grunge. I'm not sure, they don't have an R, I've cut the names off them. They were released last year, I think, at the beginning of last year or maybe the year before. But they're all these sort of modern steampunky type goes, and I just really love how they go, and they just stamp. The craft is amazing to stamp directly on. So if you love stamping in your books, the craft is just phenomenal because it is so smooth and it just takes ink beautifully. So I was just building up a bit of a background. I wanted to have lots of numbers and sort of technical stuff in the background because it reminded me of all the beeping machines I had in the hospital, all the blood pressures, all the amounts of blood that were taking from me. So having the lines, so I'm pointing at particular numbers, it was just sort of helping me process what had gone on. So once I'd sort of put in what I liked in the background, you can see me sort of doing multiple stamping, so I get it fading off into the background as well. I also deliberately put the darker piece down the bottom, so it gave a bit of a ground for the figures to be standing on, so they weren't necessarily floating in the air. So once I glued my figures down, I then I had a fairly strong feeling about what I was going to do with this, which for some people might think you're absolutely nuts, Niamh, but I did want to represent the fact that, you know, I had been bleeding, so I am going to get the red paint out, just to represent that. And again, it was just me sort of working out what was happening. So I'm first of all putting some Stabilo oil pencil around my figures just to pop them out from the background, give them a little bit of a shadow, and yeah, and pop them out from the background. I'm repeating myself. So I'm just got the ruby red gloss spray, and I decided to put that on my figure that was representing me. Obviously it's a little bit higher up than my stomach, where I had the bleed, but that's where I put it, and then just let it drip down onto the page. I then decided I wanted to write "I'm still standing" on the page with the red. I was going to write it with the stem of the bottle, but it was just a little bit too hard, so I actually just got the paintbrush in to write with it. And I wasn't 100% sure about this, because it was red is such a strong and powerful color, and it can be a little bit confronting, especially on a page that's as stark as this one is. So it really obviously does stand out. That's kind of the point of it, I suppose. That's the reason why I was doing it. But even though this is what I wanted to represent, I was still struggling with it a little bit. But that's okay, because I was struggling to understand what was happening to me at that stage too. So I just went with it. I thought, no, this is what I want to do. And I'm really glad I did it. And I'm really glad I did it on the day I did it, because it really helped me sort of just get out of my head, just get it down onto the paper and, you know, try and process it there and then. So once I'd finished writing, I did actually add a little bit of red spray over the background as well. And as Dina always says, you need to be really, really careful if you're splattering with red, because obviously, you know, it does kind of look like blood, so you just need to be careful. Once I'd finished, like I always do with my writing, I'm just putting a little bit of white around it, and I'm really glad I did, because that kind of calmed the red down a little bit. It just helped it not blend into the background, but just, yeah, just calmed it somewhat. I also added some journaling about what had happened this week in really scribbly writing, just getting it out of my head, so that the page in itself made sense to me. The final thing I decided to do, which I'm really glad I did, was I actually wrote down the my blood score levels. So, you know, as they were going down, the doctors were sort of telling me, you know, how much I'd lost. I got down to, I think, 70 HB units. So obviously it's gone up now, which is really good, but I still have to have I had to have a blood transfusion in hospital, and I'm going to have an iron transfusion as well, because I'm anemic at the moment. So having just those little details written down will help me remember for the future. And whether that be good or bad, it was something I needed to do on the time. So don't be afraid to journal the hard stuff. Even if it's just for you, you don't need to share it with anyone, but it's a good way to remember the good stuff and the bad stuff as well. Thanks for watching. Until next time, bye for now.